Ed Wong remembers playing here with his two friends, Boykin and Cush Cade, when they were growing up in Augusta, Georgia. One day, on a humid summer afternoon some 50 years ago, Cush was clinging to a tree swing in the yard. His brother Boykin pushed him so hard that he crashed against a fence and gashed his head. His hair bloody, Cush started to cry, "I'm gonna tell Mama, I'm gonna tell Mama." Boykin quickly took control and said, "Don't tell Mama. You gotta be brave. You gotta be brave," he repeated. Cush calmed down and resumed playing. He never told his mother. Ed sat quietly by and watched Boykin in action. "You gotta be brave" was the phrase that Boykin used repeatedly as he led Ed and others through their childhood adventures. Ed Wong has never forgotten this. This is a story about youth and innocence and respect. It is a story of their friendship in Augusta, Georgia during the 1940s. During the 1940s, segregation kept blacks and whites apart. Chinese in the South were not specifically covered by segregation laws. They were neither black nor white. Each Southern community defined how Chinese were legally treated. The city of Augusta decided, after some debate, that Chinese would be honorary whites. So, Ed and his brother Larry attended white schools. Boykin and Cush attended black schools. Still, the boys were close friends because they lived in the same poor, isolated neighborhood. Ed's mother called him Bibi Jai, Cantonese for baby son. Neighbors transformed Baby Jai to Baby Jack. In 1949, Ed moved to California and retained fond memories of his youth. As he grew older, he talked story about his childhood in the Chinese American tradition. The Baby Jack rice story is Ed Wong's Bei Min story. It is a testament to Boykin, whose playfulness and leadership opened a world of wonder for Ed and the others. It is also a testament to the Chinese who came to toil and eventually settled in the South. Ed's family settled in Augusta because of events that occurred in the 1870s. To expand its municipal canals, the city of Augusta hired Chinese to work alongside blacks and convicts. Many of these Chinese came from Ed's father's village of Yutinchern. This was a time of anti-Chinese sentiment in America. Politicians and labor leaders stirred the American working class into believing that Chinese deprived whites of jobs. They faced hostility, but after the work on the canals was completed, most Chinese, a majority of them male, stayed and opened grocery stores. Thus, one of the largest Chinese communities in the South began. At first, these groceries were located in the downtown part of the city. Later, most served black neighborhoods. A few of these pioneer men married white and black women. In China, Wong Yet-choi, Ed's father, was a merchant. These recent photographs show the ancestral village he left to come to America in 1919. He came as a servant of a Chinese consulate employee in San Francisco. His family stayed behind. The 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act prohibited the immigration of laborers. The statutes allowed merchants, teachers, students, and travelers to enter America. As a merchant, Wong Yet-choi was permitted to reside in the United States. In 1923, he joined his older brother, Wong Yok-hing, who was living on Pickett Avenue in Augusta. Soon afterwards, Wong Yet-choi opened a small grocery in the black neighborhood on Wrightsboro Road. Local black men assisted Chinese grocers. Mike Lowe, who lived in this Hunter Street house, helped Ed's father. Later, Wong Yet Choi moved across the street and opened a larger store. This store, like most Augusta Chinese groceries of this period, faced two streets. This placement allowed them to serve customers from two directions. In 1930, Su Shi Wong came from China to join her husband. She was accompanied by her son Ted and her brother Robert. Like all Chinese immigrants from 1910 to 1940, they were detained on Angel Island in San Francisco Bay. It operated as an interrogation point for newly arrived Asian immigrants. As part of the immigration process, Su Shi Wong answered questions about her village and her wedding. Her husband, summoned to the immigration station in Jacksonville, Florida, answered the same questions. Immigration officials compared their answers. This village map, drawn by Su Shi Wong at Angel Island, matched the one drawn by Wong Yet Choi in Jacksonville, Florida. Despite different versions of their wedding celebration, immigration officials released her, Ted, and Robert. Su Shi Wong then joined Wong Yet Choi in Augusta. After her arrival, the family grew. Rachel, Larry, Ed, and Ginger were born. In the neighborhood, the Wongs operated their store as a shop house and lived in small quarters behind their store. This sustained a traditional South China practice. In 1936, soon after the birth of the youngest child, Ginger, Wong Yet Choi left for San Francisco. There he ran the Village Association's herb store on Grant Avenue. He planned to stay in San Francisco for only a short time, but he never returned to Augusta. He died in San Francisco in 1941. Su Shi Wong and her son Ted were left to raise the American-born children. Mike Lowe, who helped Wong Yet Choi, continued to assist the family.
As far back as I can remember, Mike Lowe was always there to help my mom take care of me and my siblings. When I was very little, he rode me around in the small wire basket of the grocery bicycle. I remember so well because it hurt when we passed over the bumps in the dirt road. My family lost contact with Mike over 40 years ago. Recently, Flo and I went back to his neighborhood to ask about him. His next-door neighbor, Maddie Coleman, who is 90 years old and remembers my family in Augusta, told us that Mike died some time ago. She couldn't remember exactly when, so she went and got her Bible and showed us where she had recorded his passing in 1952.
In 1929, the Reverend Louis Cade Sr. and his family relocated to Augusta. In Elberton, Georgia, he was a sharecropper. He and his wife, Sally Mae Cade, eventually settled on Hunter Street, near Wong Choi's grocery store. Their children, Sarah, Alma, Boykin, Cush, Francis, and Thomas, grew up there. As a child in Louisiana, he felt the call to preach the Lord's Word. In Augusta, he supplemented his pastoral income by working at the arsenal. Sally Mae Cade worked in private service as a maid for a white family. She also took in laundry, a common practice among neighborhood women. Ed recalls how he first met Boykin and Cush.
My family store had a long wooden bench and a shady elm tree in front. It was an inviting place for locals to gather. Everyone called our store the corner. They sat on the bench, told stories, played checkers, and enjoyed refreshments. Boykin and Cush were young brothers who became regulars at the corner. I was 7 when I met them. I was impressed with Boykin's charisma, his sense of humor, and leadership. Together with Larry and Cush, we became a group of 4. Boykin was the oldest of the group and told us of nearby places to explore. This excited us because our poor neighborhood had few places for recreation. Boykin encouraged us in new adventures with his phrase, "You gotta be brave." This phrase, along with his insistence of not letting others control you, have been lifelong lessons for me. Cush and I recently talked about his late brother, Boykin. You can't be a little baby and go tell Mom.
Yeah, that's his word. Gotta be brave.
Gotta be brave.
Yeah.
Remember that? That was his word. He got us all to follow him by saying,
Yeah.
You gotta be brave.
Yeah.
Boykin's sister Alma recently recalled him as a boisterous young man.
Boykin, he was mischievous. He would just think of things and talk anybody into it, and then he's out of it. He left y'all holding the bag, you know. But he's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And he would just laugh and think of things, anything. And y'all would follow him.
We're just recalling the phrase he had to get us to do things is, you gotta be brave.
That's right, that was his word.
Our favorite places were the cotton compress and the brickyard ponds. With Boykin leading, we would walk along the old Cotton Belt Railroad line that ran through our neighborhood to the cotton compress. The first time I went to the compress, there were many chameleons. The younger boys had not seen chameleons before, and Boykin told us that they would run up our legs and chew off our testicles. For some time after that, when we walked through the compress fields, we would always hold on to our genitals. When I returned to the compress as an adult, I found it mostly inactive. The compress behind me is one of the few remaining in operation. But when we played here, there were so many operating that the water from their steam engines created a flowing stream. We played in the stream catching minnows and tadpoles. Now the stream is dry and the buildings are dilapidated. Instead of long trains, only 1 truck a day bring the small amount of cotton that is processed here. While growing up in Augusta, I often took the bus home from downtown. At the beginning of the trip, most of the riders were white, and as an honorary white, I had to sit in the front of the bus with them. As the bus progressed towards my neighborhood, black riders came on. Sometimes my friends would come on the bus and sit next to me. The driver would signal my friends to the back of the bus through the mirror, or on some occasions, the driver would stop the bus and force them to the back.
Regulars at the corner had their own entertainment. Musicians, magicians came to the corner and entertained the crowd. Alma reminisces about a neighborhood hypnotist who hung out at the corner.
He hypnotized Cush, and I come around there, and he was just as stiff, and oh, I had a fit. His arm was stretched all out.
Ed and Larry worked in the store before they went to play. At the store, Boykin and Cush often pitched in. Sushi Wong treated the boys to freshly prepared Chinese delicacies. Kush remembers the Chinese hamburgers, the pork bows that Sushi Wong cooked from scratch.
Miss Wong, I look at dough on the top, meat be in the middle, but look at dough. And the Chinese hamburger.
While the Augusta Chinese community interacted with African Americans, they also maintained a distinct community identity of their own. They organized a Chinese Benevolent Association and established 2 Cantonese language schools. Families grew and shared Chinese vegetables. The men made a vertical oven to cook siu-zhi, roast whole pig. Women dried and pickled vegetables, and they made lap churung, sausages, and zhong, tamales. 2 years ago, on a visit to Augusta, Ed pointed out where his mother hung lap churung in the sun.
Like with little hot pole and hang sausages, the Chinese sausages that she was making.
How often did she do that?
Well, every fall. It was in the fall that she did that because that's when the flies were gone and the weather was still hot enough. It was in the fall and she would drive them in the sun. The sun used to set over in that direction there, so she got a lot of sun. And it was just a constant dripping of oils from the sausages that made a little line right along the...
Ed and his family left Augusta in 1949 to settle in California. In 1961, he married Flo Wong, who is currently an artist in residence at Headlands Center for the Arts in California. She became fascinated with his childhood stories, which he told passionately, and created a rice sack installation to narrate his childhood experiences. She was already using rice sacks to create her cultural-based art. Together, Ed and Flo collaborated on this video. Ed always remembered Boykin, Kush, and their childhood. The Black and Chinese communities of that time are now gone. Kush and Alma are still living in Augusta. The Chinese community peaked in the 1940s. Today, few of the younger generations of Augusta Chinese remain. Most of the Chinese groceries of Ed's childhood are boarded up, owned by blacks or converted to other uses. Sito Wu's store is now a beauty shop. J.P. Wong's store is a church. Ed's father's store passed through several Chinese ownerships and eventually to Woodrow Moore. He ran it for many years before the structure was condemned and torn down in early 1993. Today, the Wudun store is one of the few remaining Chinese groceries. The site of the Wong Choi Grocery is now a shortcut through the neighborhood. But some 50 years ago, it was a place of respect. It was a location for Wong Yet Choi and Sushi Wong to raise a family. It was a community place to connect, a place to beimin, a place to show face. The Wong boys and the Cade boys showed face. They succeeded because they didn't know that they weren't supposed to be friends. They created their own world 50 years ago. It was the time when Baby Jai became Baby Jack.